Tribes, We Need You to Lead Us by Seth Godin. Picture this, the Pentagon, the beating heart of American military might. A place where hierarchy isn't just respected, it's practically sacred. Where tradition runs so deep that people actually use the phrase turning the Pentagon to describe something completely impossible. Now, imagine a guy working inside this fortress of tradition. He's not wearing stars on his shoulders. He doesn't have a corner office or assistants at his beck and call. He's just a researcher named Thomas Barnett, and he's got this wild idea about how the military should see the world after 9/11. Here's the thing, though. He can't order anyone to listen to him. He has zero authority. So what does he do? He puts together a presentation. But we're not talking about your typical death by PowerPoint situation here. This thing is a 3-hour marathon, closer to a TED Talk meets performance art than anything you'd expect in a military briefing. And then, he just starts sharing it with anyone who'll give him the time of day. He connects with people asking the same questions he is, people who feel in their gut that something needs to change. Here's where it gets interesting. Slowly but surely, something magical starts happening. His idea catches fire. It sparks conversations, it brings people together. And before long, this researcher with no fancy title, no real power to speak of, becomes what the Wall Street Journal called a key figure in reshaping the future of the modern military. He didn't climb a ladder to get there. He didn't manage his way to the top. He led. So today we're diving into the book that explains exactly how this happens. It's called Tribes, We Need You to Lead Us, and it's by the always thought-provoking Seth Godin. This isn't your typical business book. It's more like a manifesto for anyone who's ever felt like they could make a difference, but didn't know how. Godin's big argument is pretty radical. For centuries, we've been trained to blend in, follow the rules, and become well-oiled cogs in what he calls the factory. But here's the kicker. That world is dead and gone. What's replaced it is something much more exciting. Thanks to the internet and our deep human need to connect with others, we now have this incredible opportunity to find our tribe, a group of people rallying around an idea, a leader, and each other, and to step up and lead them. Here's what I'm promising you today. By the time we're done here, you'll never look at leadership the same way again. You won't see it as something reserved for corner offices and people in power suits. You'll see it for what it really is, a choice. A choice to shake things up, to bring people together, and to make change happen. And you'll realize that not only can you make this choice, but the world is literally waiting for someone like you to step up. Let's get into it. For most of the last century, the path to success seemed pretty straightforward. Get into a decent school, land a solid job at a reputable company, and climb that corporate ladder one rung at a time. The company was essentially a factory, and I don't just mean places with assembly lines and whistles. Any organization designed for maximum efficiency was a factory. Your role? Follow the manual, do what your boss says, and whatever you do, don't rock the boat. In exchange, you got stability and a steady paycheck. The whole system ran on one core principle: management. Management is basically the art of shuffling resources around to get a specific job done. Think about a McDonald's. The manager isn't there to revolutionize fast food. They're there to make sure every burger comes out exactly the same way, as quickly and cheaply as possible, every single time. Management is about keeping things exactly as they are. And honestly, for a long time it worked great. Stability was the prize. Change was the enemy because change meant risk. But then things started shifting. Actually, 3 massive shifts happened all at once. First, the people doing the work started waking up to the fact that spending 40 years just following orders wasn't exactly fulfilling. We started craving work that actually meant something, work we could believe in. Second, companies themselves realized the factory model wasn't as profitable anymore. In a world where you can outsource to anywhere on the planet, you can always find someone willing to run your factory for less. Efficiency by itself wasn't enough to win anymore. And third, customers changed. We got tired of average products for average people. We started wanting things that were interesting, different, remarkable. We wanted stories and fashion and products that actually resonated with who we are. Right in the middle of this perfect storm, the internet showed up. And it didn't just speed up the change, it completely rewrote the playbook. Suddenly, distance didn't matter anymore. People who loved obscure jazz, or a specific programming language, or shared a particular political passion could find each other instantly, no matter where they lived. Welcome to the world of the tribe. So what exactly is a tribe? Godin gives us a beautifully simple answer. A tribe is a group of people connected to one another, connected to a leader, and connected to an idea. That's it. For millions of years, this is how humans have organized ourselves. We're hardwired for belonging. All a group needs to become a tribe is two things: something they all care about, and a way to talk to each other. Let me tell you about the Grateful Dead. Here's a band that had exactly one top 40 album in their entire career, which spanned decades. By the olfactory rules of the music industry, they should have been a footnote in music history. Instead, they became a cultural phenomenon that made over $100 million. How? They didn't just sell records, they led a tribe. They understood something deep about human nature. We don't just want to buy stuff, we want to belong to something. They created concerts that weren't just about listening to music, but about experiencing it together. They did something the music industry thought was crazy. They encouraged fans to tape their shows and trade the recordings. But by doing that, they gave their tribe a way to communicate, share, and connect. When one deadhead tells another, February 14th, 70, it's like a secret handshake, a shared memory that says, "You're one of us." They weren't just fans anymore. They were insiders. This is the crucial difference. The old approach was about marketing to a crowd, just a bunch of random, disconnected people. Smart organizations don't market to crowds anymore. They connect with tribes and lead them. And here's the key part. You can't have a tribe without a leader, and you can't be a leader without a tribe. They need each other. This brings us to the heart of what Godin's saying. The world is now overflowing with tribes, big and small, all hungry for connection and leadership. And the tools to connect and lead them, blogs, social networks, email, meetups, are literally in everyone's pocket. The only thing standing between you and leading? You. Your choice. Your willingness to step up. But this is where most of us freeze. We've spent our whole lives thinking leadership is a position. It's the boss, the president, the person with the title. We think we need permission. We think we need someone to give us authority. And this, Godin argues, is where we've got it all wrong. Leadership isn't the same thing as management. Managers have employees. Leaders have followers. Managers work to minimize risk and keep everything stable. Leaders create change they believe in. Management relies on the authority of the system. Do this, or you're fired. Leadership runs on passion and ideas. Let's go here together because it matters. Remember Thomas Barnett at the Pentagon? He had zero authority. What he had was a powerful idea and the passion to connect with people who were ready to hear it. You don't need authority to lead. Sometimes it actually gets in the way. Here's another story. When Seth Godin was just 24, he was working at a small software company. His assignment was to create a new line of video games, but he had a massive problem. Nobody was assigned to work for him. The company's 40 programmers were all tied up on other projects. He was given just 3. He needed way more than that to hit his deadline. What did he do? He could have complained to his boss. He could have just managed his 3 programmers and failed. Instead, he started a newsletter. Twice a week, he wrote about the journey his tiny team was on. He celebrated their wins, big and small. He talked about the new territory they were exploring. He made photocopies and put one in every single employee's mailbox. He was telling a story. He was connecting the few people on his team not just to his vision but to each other. He was building a tribe, right there inside the company. Within a month, 6 more engineers had switched over to his project, working on it in their spare time. Soon it was 20. Before long, every programmer in the company was either officially assigned to his project or moonlighting on it. They shipped 5 hit products and saved the company. Did they switch because of a newsletter? Of course not. They switched because of the journey. They wanted to be part of something that mattered. This 24-year-old with no staff and no authority didn't manage them into it. He led them. This opportunity exists everywhere, in every organization. The opportunity to lead from exactly where you are. So if tribes are everywhere and the tools are available and you don't need permission, why isn't everyone leading? Why do we hold back? The answer is one simple, powerful emotion: fear. We have great ideas constantly. The world isn't suffering from a shortage of brilliant ideas. What's missing is the willingness to make them happen, and that willingness gets crushed by fear. But it's a specific kind of fear. We often say we're afraid of failure. But Godin argues that's overrated, especially in most organizations. If you launch something and it flops, the company takes the financial hit. You'll probably keep your job. What we're really afraid of isn't failure, it's blame, it's criticism. Deep down, we're terrified that someone will look at our work and say, "That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard." We're worried someone will ask, "Who's responsible for this mess?" We're afraid of looking foolish. And this fear is so powerful that we choose to be unremarkable. We choose boring, because boring is safe. Boring doesn't get criticized. This creates a fascinating trap. The marketplace today rewards remarkable things. Ideas that spread win. Boring ideas don't spread. So by trying to avoid the criticism that comes with being remarkable, we basically guarantee our own irrelevance. We end up defending mediocrity, and that's exhausting. So how do we get past this fear? Godin says it's not about making the fear disappear. It's about realizing two important things. First, you need to honestly assess the actual risk. Before you bury your next great idea, ask yourself, if I get criticized for this, what will actually happen? Will I lose my job? Will I lose important relationships? Will something truly bad happen? Most of the time, the answer is no. The only real consequence is that you'll feel bad for a while. And you have to weigh that temporary bad feeling against the enormous benefits of doing something exciting, meaningful, and potentially game-changing. Feeling bad fades. Being remarkable lasts. The second step is even more powerful. Completely reframe how you think about criticism. If you create something that nobody criticizes, it means nobody noticed. It means you were boring. Criticism isn't a sign you failed. It's a sign you did something worth talking about. It's actually a badge of honor. In fact, Godin totally flips the script. Once you commit to being remarkable, the question isn't, how do I avoid criticism? The question becomes, how can I create something meaningful enough that critics will actually take the time to criticize it? This shift in mindset requires something deeper than just courage. It requires faith. And here Godin makes a really interesting distinction between faith and religion. Faith is believing in a better future, the conviction that your efforts will matter, the resilience to keep pushing through uncertainty. Faith is what lets a leader act like a heretic, someone who dares to challenge the status quo and see things differently. Religion, on the other hand, is the set of rules, rituals, and protocols designed to maintain the status quo. Every organization has a religion. It's how we do things around here. IBM in the 1960s had a religion of blue suits and formal presentations. The local country club has a religion of membership rules and traditions. The music industry had a religion built around selling CDs for huge profit margins. Religion at its best can support our faith and make it stronger, but at its worst it becomes a cage. It reinforces the status quo at the expense of faith in a better way. The leaders at Woolworths stuck so rigidly to their religion, the rules that once made them great, that they completely missed how the world had changed, and the company disappeared. Great leaders are heretics. They challenge the religion, but they do it from a place of deep faith. They have faith in their tribe, faith in their vision, and faith that change isn't just possible, it's necessary. When people challenge the religion, it often feels like they're attacking your faith, which is why heretics face such fierce resistance. But they're not the same thing. Sometimes you actually have to abandon one religion to keep your faith alive. Think about Chris Sharma, the rock climber. For years, the religion of rock climbing was straightforward. Always keep at least one hand and one foot on the wall. It was safe. It was the rule. But Chris had faith that there was a better way to conquer routes that seemed impossible. So he started jumping. He would launch himself through the air, terrifyingly connected to nothing, to grab holds that were previously unreachable. At first, the establishment called it reckless and wrong. But his faith in this new technique allowed him to do things nobody else could. Eventually, the religion of the sport evolved to match his faith. That leap, that moment of being connected to nothing, is what leadership feels like. It's literally a leap of faith. So how do you actually build and lead a tribe? Godin lays out some simple but powerful tactics. First, a leader's job is to tighten the tribe. It's tempting to focus only on making it bigger, getting more members. But a smaller, more connected tribe is way more powerful than a larger, disconnected one. A tribe that communicates quickly and emotionally is a tribe that thrives. Steve Jobs was a master at this. His product announcements became rituals that tightened Apple's tribe, giving them reasons to connect, speculate, and feel like insiders. How do you tighten a tribe? Give them tools to communicate with each other and with you. Godin identifies 4 channels: leader to tribe to leader, tribe member to tribe member, and tribe member to outsider. A great leader provides platforms for all 4. They create spaces where people can talk to each other. Think comments, sections, Facebook groups, in-person meetups. Often the leader's job is just to start the conversation, then step back. Second, great leaders are generous. In our celebrity-obsessed culture, it's easy to think leadership is about ego and glory. But true leadership is almost always the opposite. The best leaders set out to give, not to get. They shine the spotlight on their tribe. They don't hog attention for themselves. They use it to unite the tribe and reinforce what it stands for. When a leader starts acting like a selfish monarch, taking all the credit and perks, they're no longer leading, they're just taking. Finally, a leader gives the tribe a story they can tell themselves. People don't believe what you tell them. They rarely believe what you show them. They often believe what their friends tell them. But they always believe what they tell themselves. Your job as a leader isn't to command and control. It's to create a narrative about the future, about change, and about who we are. This brings us to something Godin calls sheepwalking. This is what happens when organizations hire people trained to be obedient, give them mindless jobs, and use fear to keep them in line. A sheepwalker is the customer service representative who reads you company policy over and over, but refuses to actually think about what it means. It's the manager who keeps buying TV ads because that's what the boss expects, even though they know the ads don't work. They're following a map even when they can clearly see it leads off a cliff. Sheepwalking is the opposite of leadership. It's what happens in systems designed to stamp out heretics and reward compliance. And while it feels safe, it's actually the riskiest strategy possible in a world that never stops changing. The alternative? Build an organization full of leaders. Hire amazing people and give them the freedom to do amazing things. It looks messy, it's not top-down, it feels chaotic. But that's where all the growth, excitement, and real fun happens. Let me end the summary with one of the most powerful stories in the book. It's about Nathan Winograd and the no-kill movement. Every year in the United States, about 5 million healthy, adoptable dogs and cats are killed in animal shelters. For decades, the religion of the shelter world said this was tragic but necessary. The established tribe, including major humane organizations, believed there was simply no other way. Nathan Winograd couldn't accept that. He had faith in a better way. He took over a shelter in rural New York that was broke, run down, and staffed by people deeply committed to the old way of doing things. On his very first day, he made a declaration. He refused to kill healthy animals under his care. He didn't compromise. He drew a clear line. Within months, half his staff, The ones who couldn't leave the old religion behind had quit. He knew he couldn't do it alone. He knew he needed a tribe. So he went straight to the public. He told them his story. He gave them a new vision to believe in. The response was overwhelming. Donations flooded in. Hundreds of volunteers showed up. In an industry where a 20% adoption rate was considered good, his shelter was regularly adopting out more than 85% of its animals. He didn't have a huge budget. He didn't have official power over anyone except his small staff. All he had was leadership. He found a tribe of people who'd been waiting for someone to bring them together, give them a story, and lead them. He changed a horrible, century-old tradition, not by managing a system, but by sparking a movement. That's the power of a tribe, and that power is now available to every single one of us. The book doesn't end with a checklist. It ends with a question. The barriers are gone. The tools are here. Nobody has to anoint you. Nobody needs to give you permission. The only person who can say no is you. So the question is, why not you, and why not now? When you step back and look at tribes, what's really striking is how Seth Godin basically predicted the future. He wrote this in 2008, when Facebook was still young and Twitter was barely a thing. Yet he perfectly nailed the fundamental shift in our culture, the move away from top-down, mass-market institutions toward decentralized, passion-driven communities. This book is somehow more relevant today than when it was published. The most powerful lesson for me is how Godin redefines leadership itself. We're so conditioned to see leadership as a noun, a position, a title on a business card. Godin insists that leadership is a verb. It's something you do. It's a choice you make in a moment, whether you're in a boardroom, a classroom, or your own kitchen. It's choosing to see a better way, connecting others to that vision, and pushing through the discomfort of change. The distinction between management and leadership should honestly be taught in every school. Management is about keeping the trains running on time. It's essential, but it doesn't create the future. Leadership is about deciding where the track should go next. It's about taking your tribe somewhere new. Godin's profound insight is that our world is starving for leaders while being stuffed to the brim with managers. So what can you actually do with this right now, today? The beauty of Godin's philosophy is that you don't need to wait for some grand moment. You can start small. Here are some practical ways to apply these ideas. First, identify a tribe you're already part of that lacks connection. Maybe it's your sports team, people in your favorite class, or colleagues at your job. Your first act of leadership can be as simple as starting a conversation, create a group chat, organize a weekly lunch. Just create a space for people to connect with each other. You don't need all the answers. You just need to create the platform. Second, practice being a heretic in a low-stakes situation. Find one small unspoken rule, the religion, that everyone follows but nobody questions. Maybe it's an inefficient process at work, or a seating arrangement in a club that doesn't make sense anymore. Ask why out loud. Suggest something better. It'll feel uncomfortable. That discomfort is what leadership feels like. Getting comfortable with that feeling is your first step toward making a bigger impact. Finally, start a newsletter. I'm serious. Doesn't matter if only 5 people read it. Just like Godin did when he was 24. Use it to tell the story of a project you care about. Celebrate the people you're working with. Share your vision for what you're building together. It's a simple, powerful tool for tightening a tribe and turning a group of individuals into a passionate team on a mission. That's our journey through tribes by Seth Godin. We've covered the big ideas today, but I'll be honest, a summary can only take you so far. The real magic of a book like this happens in those quiet moments, when a single story or phrase connects with you in a way you didn't expect. This summary is your map, but the real treasure comes from reading it yourself. If anything we've talked about today has sparked something inside you, I really encourage you to grab a copy. It's not just about learning, it's an experience that can genuinely change how you see your own potential to make a difference. The link to the book is in the description. Also, if you found this summary valuable, I'd really appreciate it if you'd hit that like button and subscribe. It lets me know this work matters, and it makes sure you won't miss our next deep dive into another life-changing book. Let's keep growing together.